Your brain is not bored. AI is stealing your dopamine. You're not bored. Your brain is overstimulated. AI-optimized feeds are hijacking your dopamine, lowering your motivation while keeping you scrolling for the next micro hit. The feeling you call nothing's interesting is actually a reward system stuck on low. In this documentary, I'll show you how the circuitry works, the subtle manipulation patterns to watch for, and how to reclaim your attention in 7 days. You'll learn the dopamine floor, the March 3rd, 30 reset, and a craving interrupt that never fails. There's a hidden variable apps tweak without telling you, and one metric that predicts relapse. Let's start with why your fixes don't work. Why your boredom isn't boredom. If you've said, "I'm bored," while surrounded by more entertainment than any human in history, you're not bored. You're experiencing an overstimulation hangover. Let me back up and name the 3 states people confuse: boredom, anhedonia, and overstimulation. True boredom is when nothing in your environment maps to your goals, so your brain nudges you to explore. Anhedonia is different. The capacity to feel pleasure is dampened. Overstimulation is another thing. You've binged Novelty so long that your system downshifts baseline motivation. The result feels like boredom, but the cause isn't a lack of input, it's too much. Here's the thing most people miss. Your dopamine system cares less about absolute pleasure and more about contrast and prediction. Think of the dopamine floor, your baseline level of motivation and interest. Short, frequent spikes from algorithmic novelty push the peak higher for a moment, but the floor slowly drops. When the floor drops, ordinary life feels flat. It's not that walking, reading, or cooking became worse. Your comparison lens shifted. If you remember nothing else, remember this. Frequent high contrast novelty lowers your baseline. Why do you keep scrolling even when you're not enjoying it? Reward prediction error. Your brain releases dopamine not just when you get a reward, but when a reward is better than expected. Infinite feeds engineer almost. Almost the shocking story. Almost the perfect tip. Almost the laugh. That gap, better than expected hovering just out of reach, keeps the system firing. It's a casino mechanic embedded in your palm. Now here's where most people mess up. They chase salience, not meaning. Salience is what grabs attention. Meaning is what satisfies. Outrage, novelty, and rapid cuts spike salience without delivering durable reward. Your attention surges, but your satisfaction doesn't rise with it. That mismatch is the salience trap. You feel tugged to look, but afterward, the dopamine floor is a notch lower. Do that for an hour, and the rest of your day feels grey. Contrast this with true rest. Low stimulus states, like a quiet walk, a physical hobby, or reading a slow chapter, don't deliver fireworks. They restore the floor. Your nervous system recalibrates when inputs are gentle and coherent. Doom scrolling masquerades as rest because your body is still, but the cognitive load is high. Constant appraisal, micro-decisions, emotional whiplash. That's not recovery, it's subtle strain. This clicked for me when I noticed the difference between a quiet evening with a show plus second screen browsing and a genuinely quiet evening with one analog activity. The first felt busy but empty. The second felt simple but nourishing. Same time spent, opposite impact on the floor. Let me show you exactly how craving fits in. Craving isn't pleasure. It's tension asking for closure. We confuse the relief of ending tension with enjoyment. You scroll, you get a tiny resolution, the tension drops, and your brain marks it as good. But the underlying reward is weak, so the tension rebuilds fast. That's why the itch returns minutes later. If you treat that itch as proof you want it, you stay stuck. If you treat it as proof your system is sensitized, you start to get leverage. Before we continue, you need to understand why your current fixes keep failing. Most people try 2 moves: white-knuckle willpower or a weekend detox. Willpower assumes you can outmuscle trained cues and variable rewards. You might for a day, but cues beat intentions when your baseline is low. A detox often backfires through deprivation rebound. You drop to 0 input, your floor rises a hair, then you return to the old environment, and the pendulum swings harder. The lesson your brain learns is, after deprivation comes a feast, and the cycle tightens. The reason this works like a trap is context memory. Your brain binds cues, places, times, device states to routines. Your couch plus your phone at 11 p.m. is a loaded context. Even if you intend to read, the cue stack pulls you back to the feed. So when you say, "I'll just be disciplined," you're pitting a tired prefrontal cortex against a rehearsed loop that's been reinforced hundreds of times. Tired brains default to easy dopamine. Another layer most folks ignore is contrast. If you jump from algorithmic, high-flash content to healthy content, but keep the same rapid novelty pattern, your floor doesn't move. Educational shorts can still be overstimulation if you stack them. Productive content, same mechanics. That's why swapping one feed for another feels virtuous, but results in the same flatness later. Let's ground this with a simple mental model: spikes and floor. Every spike costs you a tiny bit of baseline. Individually, it's negligible. Aggregated across a day, you've borrowed tomorrow's motivation. Then tomorrow feels boring, so you seek another spike to feel anything at all. That's the anti-reward loop. More stimulation, less satisfaction. A quick win you can try today. For the next hour, do one task with no additional inputs. No music, no podcast, no toggling. Just the task. Your brain will protest with a restless itch around minute 6 to 12. That itch is the floor rising and your system recalibrating. Ride it for 5 minutes. Most people find that by minute 15, attention gets heavier and more stable. That's baseline recovery in real time. Now, a common mistake story. Last week, someone told me they cut out social media, but replaced it with rapid-fire news refreshes and crypto tickers. They felt productive, but their evenings were still numb. They swapped content, not cadence. The thing they finally changed was stimulus stacking. No second screens during any single activity. Within 3 days, their morning interest in routine tasks returned. The content type mattered less than the pace. Here's the shortcut nobody teaches. Label the state honestly. Don't say I'm bored. Say, my dopamine floor is low from overstimulation. That reframe immediately changes the solution set. Instead of hunting for a more exciting input, you pick a restorative input. Instead of blaming yourself for laziness, you treat it like jet lag and plan a reset window. Okay, so the tricky part is timing. Right after a high-stim session, low-stim activities feel awful. That's not a verdict on the activity. It's a withdrawal-like contrast effect. Expect it. Put a short bridge between worlds. 2 minutes of breath, a glass of water, a brief walk. Then start the low-stim task. You're easing the shift so your system can accept it. This next part separates beginners from pros. Measure recovery by baseline markers, not by how hyped you feel. Markers include easier task initiation, less tab hopping, and less urgency to check. If those improve, your floor is rising even if there's no fireworks. Once you nail that, everything else clicks. You see the pattern. Mislabeling the state leads to wrong interventions. If the problem is an overstimulation hangover, willpower alone is the wrong tool. And a detox without design just swings the pendulum. In the next section, we'll break down why willpower and digital detox fail, and the method that works: swap first, subtract later. Why willpower and digital detox fail, and what works instead. Most people try 2 fixes: grip harder or disappear for a weekend. Both feel logical, and both usually fail. Let's start with willpower. You're asking the prefrontal cortex, which tires quickly, to fight a habit loop stored in the striatum that's been rehearsed hundreds of times with variable rewards. Tired brains default to easy dopamine. After a long day, your intention loses to the cue routine reward circuit that runs on autopilot. That's not a character flaw, it's how the system is wired. Now the detox move. You delete apps, go cold turkey, and feel clean for 48 hours. Then you come back, and the pendulum swings. That's deprivation rebound. The brain encodes a pattern. After famine comes feast. So the first night back, you binge harder than before. Strict bans make the behavior context dependent instead of transformed. You're good in the retreat container and right back in the loop in your normal environment. The lesson your brain learns is timing, not freedom. There's another reason detox fails: context memory. Your brain binds used to cues: time of day, place, position, even device posture. Couch at 11 p.m. plus phone angle equals scroll mode. Change is fragile when the old cues remain. Intentions get swamped by familiar entry ramps. That's why you swear you'll read, pick up the phone, just to check, and wake up 40 minutes later in the feed. The entry friction was near zero. The loop took over. And let's talk reinforcement schedules. Infinite scroll uses variable ratio reinforcement. The same schedule that makes slot machines sticky. You don't know which swipe pays off, so your brain treats the next swipe as the one. Add streaks, loot box mechanics, and surprise badges, and you've got layers of intermittent rewards stacking together. Willpower doesn't beat a casino built into your thumb. Then there's choice overload. When everything is available, you must decide constantly. Micro decisions drain executive energy. By evening, your cognitive budget is shot, and the default becomes whichever choice needs the least energy. Open the app, swipe, let the algorithm decide. Exhaustion masquerades as preference. So what works instead? Swap first, subtract later. Replace the behavior with a lower stim alternative that meets the same need. Then remove the high stim option once the replacement has roots. It's easier to shift a river than dam it. If you scroll to decompress, your replacement might be a low stim decompression, 10-minute walk without audio, a page of journaling, stretching with a timer. If you scroll to avoid a task, the replacement is a micro chunk of that task. Set a 2-minute timer and write the first ugly sentence. Meet the function, change the form. The game changer is designing friction at the entry, not during use. Most people add friction midstream, timers that pop up while you're already hooked. Too late. Put effort before the loop starts. Log out. Move the apps off your home screen. Turn your phone grayscale. Require a passcode to install apps. Use delayed notifications. Make the first step harder by 15 seconds, and you'll skip the loop more often than you expect. Reduce the number of times you enter the loop, and you cut reinforcement dramatically. Here's a simple model: gates, grooves, and guardrails. Gates are entry frictions, the locks before the behavior. Grooves are replacements, the easy path you slide into instead. Guardrails are constraints that keep drift in check if you slip. Build all three. For gates, log out, remove biometric unlock for social apps, add a 15-second delay app. For grooves, a list of 3 replacements per use case, ready to tap. For guardrails, app caps with cooldowns, scheduled splurge blocks, and a buddy you text CP when you're in the itch. Speaking of splurge blocks, this is counterintuitive but powerful. Timebox temptation. Schedule a 20 to 30 minute window, a few times a week, to indulge consciously. Why? It prevents the feast-famine dynamic and removes the glamour of forbidden fruit. Knowing you have permission later makes it easier to skip now. Put the splurge after your most important task, not before. You train the brain. Effort first, treat second. You also need device zoning. Create a dopamine device and a deep work device. If you can't dedicate 2 devices, use 2 modes. On your computer, create a separate user profile without entertainment apps. On your phone, use focus modes that hide the feeds during work. In the living room, the phone lives in a box or another floor during focus time. Environments shape behavior more reliably than pep talks. Now, the social layer. Lone wolf plans collapse when stress hits. Set a public commitment. A 1-sentence promise to a friend or a community about your next 7 days. Pair it with an accountability buddy who knows your schedule. You don't need lectures, just a check-in message. Starting March 3rd, 30 at 8 a.m., Splurge Block Friday 6 p.m. We do better when someone expects us to show up. Let me show you exactly how to implement swap first in 3 steps. 1. Identify the trigger function. Is it decompress, avoid, connect, or stimulate? 2. Pick a replacement that matches the function at a lower stimulation level. Decompress? Walk or breath practice. Avoid? 2-minute starter on the avoided task. Connect? Voice note a friend instead of comments. Stimulate? A short, embodied activity. Push-ups, cold water on the face, a quick craft step. 3. Front-load friction on the old behavior. Move apps, add passcodes, and delay notifications. Now here's where most people mess up. They try to remove everything at once. Subtracting without a swap creates a vacuum the brain rushes to fill with something equally spiky. Or they choose replacements that are secretly high-stim, YouTube study with me, that morphs into 20 video tabs. Keep replacements boring but rich. Activities with low novelty, high engagement, and clear stopping points. A quick win you can try today. Create a 2-icon home screen. Top left, your Anchor app, a Notes app with your 3 replacements pinned. Bottom right, a 15-second delay app for social. Everything else lives on page 2. Tonight, when the itch hits, you'll glance at the home screen, and the easiest path will be the replacement, not the feed. Once you nail gates and grooves, add guardrails that learn. App caps with cooldowns beat hard locks because they introduce a pause and decide moment. Example, at 20 minutes, a prompt asks, open in 15 seconds or close? That tiny delay lets your prefrontal cortex re-enter. If you still choose to continue during a scheduled splurge, fine. If not, you've saved your floor. Before we continue, acknowledge this. You won't win every time. That's expected. The measure isn't perfection. It's fewer entries, shorter sessions, and faster recovery. If you slip, apply swap first immediately on the next cycle, not tomorrow. Momentum beats guilt. And in the next section, we'll zoom in on why these platforms feel psychic, how AI learns your cravings and tunes the hooks you can't outmuscle, unless you see them, how AI learns your cravings without you noticing. If you've ever felt like the feed reads your mind, it's not magic, it's measurement. The algorithm watches engagement proxies that reveal more than your likes ever could. Dwell time is the big one. How long you hover before you swipe. Scroll velocity matters too. Fast swipes mean no. Micro pauses mean maybe. Even a half-second stall over a video thumbnail becomes a signal. Add hover lag, replays, volume changes, and comment expansions, and the system builds a tight profile of what makes your nervous system twitch. Here's the shortcut nobody teaches. The platform doesn't need your explicit ratings. It learns from micro-behaviors you forget you did. That's why I didn't even click it doesn't protect you. The pause is the click. A 2-second stall over a controversial headline says, "Show me more heat." A replay on a common clip says, "Slow novelty is working." You're training it with tiny tells. Now here's where most people mess up. They think there's one master algorithm. In reality, the feed is a stack of micro A/B tests running in parallel. Thumbnails are tested by color, contrast, and face size. Captions are split by phrasing, emoji, and promise strength. Timing windows get tuned to your local rhythms: pre-commute, lunch lull, bedtime slump. If the system sees you lean into bright, high-contrast images at night, it will push more of that then, and less at noon. You're not seeing the best, you're seeing the best for your current state. Microtests don't ask for your permission, they ask for your reaction. Did your scroll velocity drop when a red banner popped? Did your dwell time rise with a cliffhanger caption? Did you scrub back 5 seconds when the creator cut faster? The winner gets shown again, then tested against a new challenger. It's evolution running at the speed of your thumb. Before we continue, you need to understand collaborative filtering. The platform clusters you with people like you based on overlapping patterns. Similar dwell times on similar topics at similar times of day. If 10,000 people with your pattern paused on X, you'll see X+. Not just the same topic, an adjacent topic that tends to hook your cluster even harder. That's why your feed can pivot from mild curiosity to a full-blown rabbit hole in an afternoon. The model isn't guessing what you'll like, it's importing the proven addictions of your neighbors. Reinforcement learning closes the loop. When you pause, the system treats it as a reward. Good job, recommendation. That strengthens the policy that chose it, so the next tile looks more like that. When you swipe past, the policy weakens and moves on. Over time, your unique pause fingerprint becomes the teacher. You think you're sampling, you're supervising. The reason this works is emotional tagging. Outrage and novelty carry higher predictive value because they're reliable attention movers. Nuance is harder to forecast and slower to confirm. So models overweight content with sharp emotional edges. Fear, drama, rivalry, scandal. Your body responds. Heart rate ticks up, breath shortens, pupils dilate, and your behavior betrays that arousal. Slower scrolls, more replays, deeper thread reads. The system learns. Spike emotion, earn dwell. Okay, so the tricky part is that this tuning happens at 2 levels: content level and new level. Content level models chase what wins in the population. High contrast, big faces, bold claims. U-level models tune cadence and topic to your current regulation state. If you show signs of fatigue, later night sessions, sloppier swipes, it will lean towards simpler, more sensational hits. If you're crisp and early, you might see longer form, slightly calmer pieces. Either way, the goal is to keep you inside the loop. Here's the exclusive shortcut. Audit your own pause points. For 3 days, carry a tiny note, physical or in a locked notes app. Each time you feel your thumb stall, capture 3 fields: cue context, content feature, and body tell. Cue context is where and when. Couch 11 p.m, lunch desk post-argument. Content feature is the hook pattern. Bold red text, creator ranting, before-after transformation, polarizing headline, one weird trick, or breaking. Body tell is the interoception cue. Tight chest, heat in cheeks, forehead buzz, stomach pull. You're mapping your trigger signature. This clicked for one client when they saw that their longest stalls happened on fail compilations, right after tense meetings. The cue wasn't boredom, it was unprocessed tension. The content that worked provided a short, sharp shift, schadenfreude and shock, so the brain marked it as relief. Once they named that pattern, they swapped the slot with a 2-minute breath hold and a slow walk. Same time window, different regulation. Their feed got less spiky because their pauses changed. Now, a common mistake story. Someone tries to curate their feed by liking good content, but they still pause on drama. The algorithm doesn't care about your ideals. It cares about your physiology in the moment. If your eyes widen at the fight clip, you just told it the truth. To change what you see, change what you pause on. Let me show you exactly how to create an anti-hijack loop. 1. Set a pause budget. Give yourself permission to pause intentionally on only 3 pieces per session. Everything else gets a clean swipe. 2. When you catch an involuntary stall, say out loud, "Pause is purchase." That verbal tag wakes up your prefrontal cortex. 3. When a known bait appears, outrage headline, red banner, all caps, simulate speed, deliberately increase scroll velocity past it. You're breaking the reinforcement chain the model depends on. The game changer nobody talks about is priming. If you open the app in a dysregulated state, you'll train it toward escalation. If you open after a 60-second breath practice, you'll train it toward comma picks. 30 seconds of slow exhales before opening reduces the microtells that scream, "Feed me spikes." It's small, but the model is sensitive to small. Another tactic, stagger novelty windows. The system tracks time of day response curves. If you always give it your bedtime exhaustion, it will sculpt to bedtime casino. Move any optional browsing to a daytime slot right after a focus block. You'll pause less, the model will adjust, and nights get quieter. You're not just managing your behavior, you're retraining the recommender. Here's a quick win you can try today. For the next session, screenshot the first 10 tiles you see. After you're done, mark which ones you paused on and why. Tag the hook type and the body tell. Tomorrow, aim to reduce pauses on one hook type by 50% and replace them with a deliberate pause on a comma longer piece. Do that 3 days in a row, and your feed composition will shift. Finally, know this, you can't fully out-muscle a system designed to read your microsignals, but you can become unreadable at the points that matter. Control entry state, control pause points, and you'll control the training data that controls the feed. Next, we'll map the brain systems those triggers exploit, so you can interrupt cravings at the source. The neurocircuitry AI exploits, plain English. Let me make this dead simple. Dopamine isn't your happiness meter. It's your go-do-that signal. It marks what's worth pursuing, not how satisfied you are. When a cue predicts a reward, dopamine rises to push action. When a reward hits as predicted, the signal drops back. When a reward is better than expected, you get a spike that stamps the moment as important. Platforms play with that spike. Under the hood, habits live in the striatum. Think cube routine, reward stamp. Each successful loop thickens the groove. Your phones glow at a certain time. Your thumb position, the micro-boredom of a transition, their cues. Routine is the automatic scroll. Reward is that tiny hit of relief or novelty. The striatum doesn't care if the reward is meaningful. It cares if it's consistent enough to learn. Repeat it enough, and the loop runs before you notice. Now here's where most people mess up. They blame motivation when the real issue is conflict signals. The anterior cingulate cortex, the ACC, monitors conflict and uncertainty. Should I keep working or check the feed? When uncertainty is high and a quick resolution is available, the ACC flags urgency. That's your FOMO surge. Algorithms thrive on that. Cliffhangers, breaking, and partial information increase conflict, so the ACC pushes you to resolve it fast. The prefrontal cortex, the PFC, is your planner and brakes. It holds goals, resists impulses, and manages rules. But it tires. Sleep debt, stress, and decision fatigue drain PFC resources. Tired PFC means weaker top-down control, so you default to easy dopamine, the practiced loops in the striatum. This is why late-night you is less disciplined than morning you. The system didn't fail, it ran as designed. Before we continue, you need to understand memory binding. The hippocampus binds cues to contexts, places, times, body positions, even device states. Sit in your scroll chair, tilt the phone to the familiar angle, and the hippocampus serves the old routine. That's why changing locations or device modes helps. New context, weaker binding, easier behavior change. The insula is the part nobody talks about enough. It tracks interoception, your inner body signals. Craving isn't just a thought. It's a body feeling: chest tightness, jaw tension, a pit in the stomach, a buzz behind the eyes. The insula tags that sensation as significant, often mistaken as, "I want this." Actually, there's unresolved tension. Platforms don't read your thoughts. They provoke and exploit body-level arousal because your behavior follows it.